turn the time over to Tyler Finch. He's an officer or a detective right now with the Anderson Police Department in California. He was working in field. He's been a canine officer, and now he is a detective. So the show is yours, Tyler.
Oh, good. Well, I guess it's afternoon now. I've caught up with the rest of you guys. So to introduce myself, I am Tyler Finch. I'm currently a agent assigned with the Shasta Interagency Narcotics Task Force. So hence this, and I was playing out in the marijuana fields this morning, so pardon me for not being dressed up for everyone. But in 2018, I received the Survivors Award from the International Association of Chiefs of Police, which has now kind of started my public speaking career, which I'm still developing. So I appreciate y'all bearing with me and understand that I still have to work off of notes. In 2017, I was shot twice in the chest. The day started out like any other day. I was in regular patrol uniform, didn't get my sweet assignment that I have now, and went to Starbucks, still went to them at that point in time, and then started doing my rounds in my city. My city is about 11,000 people and about 6 square miles. And so we can cover it pretty quickly. And we have our regular beats that we like to do. And I would always start my graveyard shifts out with coffee and then checking the motels for wanted people or stolen cars. And I reached our local wonderful Motel 6, and oddly enough, found a stolen car sitting in the parking lot. I started my normal investigation, checking out the car, checking in with the hotel, seeing if I can identify a possible suspect. Despite it being California, it is a crime to have a stolen car. Not a really bad crime, but it is still a crime. The suspect was nice enough to leave his room registration sitting on the front passenger seat of the car, and he was actually the listed suspect in the theft of the vehicle. So he was kind enough to make my job a little bit easier. So with all that information, like any good patrol guy would do, I rallied up the troops and went to say hello to this gentleman. And after several knocks and announces, I believe it was about a minute and a half, which kind of helped me out quite a bit in the investigation and worrying if there was going to be a federal lawsuit after the fact, was the amount of time we spent at the door doing our knock and announce. But with no answer, we decided to open up the door, and we were immediately met with the suspect pointing a gun at my partner's face. At the time, I was about a 12-year cop. My partner, who now had the gun pointed at him, was a 3-month cop. Our other partner was a 6-month cop, and our sergeant standing off the ways was about a 16-year, and he was a sergeant. So why the guy didn't pull the trigger right then, I have no idea. But thank God he didn't. He turned the gun towards me and shot me twice in the chest with a 9mm from about 6 inches away. I honestly have no real recollection of the incident. I had to rely on some of the investigators telling me what had happened. All I know is I saw a gun and we started shooting. And so we had a little mini gun fight in the doorway to a second floor motel, which is a lot tighter quarters than most of us prefer. So we basically, I think he got off a total of 3 rounds and we got off 17. No one but me and the bad guy were hit. So we came out okay. He didn't make it. But that's kind of how I prefer that incident. I tell the story not because I think I'm something special. I don't think I'm some badass that can get shot in the chest and keep functioning. I think a lot of it was training, preparation, the right mindset, and then probably about 98 to 99% dumb luck, which I'll take luck over skill any day. So a couple things that I want to touch on is being the 12-year cop at about that time. That's when the statistics say that we start becoming really complacent in our job, and we end up getting hurt and or killed. And those statistics, they're right. It's well, I mean, they're statistics for a reason. Going into this incident, I don't think I could have been any more complacent. I have the video. I've watched the video a handful of times, and I will point out every single one of my weaknesses in it. It was no big deal to me. Going up to this motel, I'd been there hundreds of times. At this point, I had recovered over 100 stolen vehicles in my career. I had just been there the night before kicking a hooker out, so it wasn't a big deal in my mind. And then also knowing that in California, possession of a stolen vehicle without really anything else is a book and release type crime. The guy would probably be out of jail before I finished my report. So in my mind, it wasn't that big of a deal. What I didn't know is that the guy had just been divorced. His kids had disowned him. He had pending case for possession of a stolen vehicle, and this guy really had nothing going for him, or at least he had nothing going in his mind. And I was about to just stack another brick on top of that. He was going to be dealing with another arrest, another crap hand dealt to him, and without telling us, he decided this was going to be it. This was going to be the end of his problems. So I want to shift gears for just a second and speak on the rather taboo subject of mental health. I am not a psychologist, a doctor. I am very far from any of that. But I have lived the aftermath of a shooting, the good parts and the bad parts. And there can be the good parts of a shooting. One is I'm still here and I'm able to talk to you guys. So after my shooting, I felt great. Physically, mentally, I felt good. The shoot was cut and dry. There was no questions about it, no issues. It was good. Oddly enough, I slept better, drank less alcohol, which no one believes, but and I felt more relaxed. Kind of the opposite of what I expected to feel. So part of normal procedure for us, and like most agencies, is after the shooting, I was put on admin leave pending the investigation, plus sit down with the psychologist. And my personal feelings on the first psychologist I got to see was that he was an absolute quack. Spent more time telling me about himself than actually talking about what happened. But at the end of my 5-hour session with him, he determined that I needed to be off for at least a month and then come back for reevaluation. At that point in time, I did not understand his decision. I didn't agree with his decision, but that was his decision. The other 3 guys involved, the 2 shooters and the sergeant, they were all cleared for duty and back to work within less than 2 weeks of the actual shooting. And I saw huge issues with them. This is something that I've had some self-reflection on, and I didn't bring any of the issues up. I should have. Some of those guys probably should have been out longer. One of them said he was having flashbacks. One, to this day, so 3 years later, he still won't go to Motel 6 unless he's ordered to go there. And the sergeant, I mean, you can tell when your friends are off, when their day just, they are not themselves, and he definitely was not himself. And so I looked at the situation of, I felt good. I can see that these guys aren't good. Why am I being held out and they're not? But at this point, it wasn't my decision. It didn't really matter. So after my month off, I went back to the psych, had another about 2.5 hour session with him, and he released me back to full duty, said I was good to go. But he also asked me what I felt when he put me out for that month. I told him that I absolutely disagreed with his decision. It didn't make any sense to me, but I knew if I threw a fit, I was going to be proving his point, and I was probably going to be out even longer. So he seemed surprised by my answer, and he asked what I did on my time off. And I explained to him that I did a whole bunch of, and I think a lot of the dads in the group might know this term, deep couch sitting, where you just kind of kick back, relax, and enjoy the show. And got really good at that. My neck of the woods of California is not the part that California is really known for. I'm up in the mountains and lakes, and so I went camping, I went fishing, spent time with my family. My youngest at the time was just about 6 months old. He's about 3.5 right now, and then I got a whole herd of other kids. But I treated my time off like a regular vacation. Said, you know what, apparently I need time. I'm going to take time, and I'm going to enjoy this paid vacation. After that, did some more self-reflection, figured out that I'm going to be a really good retired guy at some point. So I'm looking forward to that in about 15 years. But with all of that, some people noticed a change. My wife said that I seemed more relaxed, but then at times out of the blue, I'd be overly or more strict with the kids. My admin and my best friend, who's also a cop, basically told me I needed to shut up about the incident and keep it to myself. And looking back, I think this was more of a liability thing than anything else, and not a mental health type thing or shutting it down. But it took me a while to accept that there might be something wrong, and that I needed to figure out what was going on, whether I was right or whether I was wrong, but I needed to look at it. So at the same time that all this happened, it seemed like I could do nothing right. Everything was going wrong. I had supervisors breathing down the back of my neck for, at the time, unknown reasons. My word didn't carry the same weight that it used to. My next incident, I was questioned for not shooting a kid who was obviously trying to commit suicide by cop. I would have been justified in that shooting, but I rolled the dice and didn't, and everyone came out alive and okay. And I was happy and okay with that. I had friends going through some of their own issues that they weren't ready to deal with, and they started distancing themselves. I had coworkers distancing themselves without any apparent reason, and I felt confused and I felt abandoned at this point. And now, all of a sudden, I had some things in common with the guy who shot me. I felt lost and confused. I guarantee he was feeling lost and confused. This went on for almost 2 years. And about 6 months after my shooting, or I'm sorry, about 9 months after my shooting, I was placed on admin leave again because my chief was concerned that I now had a John Wayne complex. That basically I figured, he figured I felt like my vest would stop anything, even though it almost didn't. It actually started pushing through the back because it was 2 rounds that basically stacked on top of each other. And the vest company was actually surprised that it stopped both rounds. So like I said, luck over skill. But I found this concern and opinion because I found it odd because no one had spoken to me. No one wanted to hear my opinion on me. It was a thought that was come up with without actually talking to me about me, and that would really play into the public opinion. But you know, the shooting hadn't been a topic of conversation for months, and I was minding my own business. Essentially, I was kind of doing what I was told to do. So with all this, I decided that I needed to continue minding my own business. I went and saw another psych. I was scheduled to see him, I think almost twice a week for 5 weeks. And after the third session, the psych said, this is a waste of everyone's time. You're perfectly fine. Who'd you piss off? And so that kind of helped me out. That let me know that I wasn't completely unjustified in my feelings, that, you know, someone was seeing some issues that may not have been with me. But I said, you know what, I'm going to mind my own business. I'm going to let things blow over, and everything's going to be fine. It just needs to be time and silence, and it'll go back to normal. Well, it didn't. It did not blow over. It got worse. I was told that I wasn't me, that I was reserved, I wasn't joking, I wasn't out bending over backwards to help everyone, whether they liked me or I liked them. It didn't matter. I wasn't out there. I thought to myself, well, what the hell am I supposed to do? This is what you guys have asked of me, is be quiet, let things blow over. And so with the realization that things weren't getting better with ignoring the problem, I decided to sit down and do a lot of self-reflection and really look into what was going on and what might be the cause. And like any good investigation, you have to look at it from all the different angles. You can't go just from your opinion and just from what you saw. You have to talk to the witnesses. So I started listening to people. I started listening to their opinions, to their observations, and it was basically, I decided I wasn't going to get beat by this. I wasn't going to get medicaled out. I wasn't going to lose. And now I started seeing the difference between me and the guy who shot me. I had the support of my family, and I had the perseverance not to fail. He had lost both of those, and that was going to be my saving grace. I decided that I was just going to suck it up. I was going to put my pride aside and basically fake it till you make it. I was going to fake a smile until I could figure out fully what was going on. It really didn't take long for me to figure out the issues, but it took me, like I said, about 2 years to fix the problems and to really address them and correct them. Some of the things that I figured out is my way of coping with the incident was joking around, and that wasn't for everyone. Some people, and you know, a decent amount of people took it as me being cocky. And some people said that they just could not believe that I would be okay mentally after being shot. And they couldn't accept that. And because they couldn't accept that, they believed that I was hiding something. So I started to call out the people that I valued, that I wanted to keep in my life, that were positive, and and really meant something to me. So I called them out on their BS and put them on the spot and said, hey, where have you been? Where were you when I needed you? And the ones that I didn't really need, they got culled from the herd. And I'm polite, I'm professional, I'm respectful with them, but I don't need them in my life. And so I made that decision. And then probably one of the things that caused the most issues, and I'm not trying to make this into a trash talking scenario or anything like that, but I found out that there was a supervisor that believed I wanted his job, even though I never tested for it, even though I flat out said I don't want it, and did everything to not be that supervisor. And I figured this out when he says to me, and this is a quote, that sometimes some people just need to be destroyed before they learn. This all was not a cause, was not caused by my shooting, but it happened at the same time, and it was just two things stacked up on each other. And after I figured out that was the issue, and that was causing a lot of my problems in the department, I now figured out what battle I was in, and needed to figure out my tactics of how I was going to approach this. And basically, I needed to formulate a plan of attack. With all that, talking on other people, I had my faults. I had my areas that I could have done better. My research on PTSD and critical incidents said that I needed to share, that I needed to talk, and I needed to not shut down. My research was right, but my application of my knowledge was wrong. I was oversharing to the point where it felt like I was bragging, like I was compensating for something, and really like I was being an asshole. This was not my intention, but it was the perception, and perception is everything. So through a lot of self-reflection and several big bites of humble pie, I have climbed out of my hole, and things are wonderful. I get to have a beard. First time in 15 years. But a lot of this goes to the old saying of it's a lot easier to say this than do this. Telling this story is far, far easier than it was actually applying the tactics and the tricks and all that. It is very, very important to do the self-reflection and situational reflection as well, to figure out what the actual problem is. It took me a long time to figure out where my problems were coming from, because it's really hard to fight the issues if you don't know what's causing the issues. And when you get that initial plan of attack, you have to be ready to have a plan B or a plan C or plan D. You have to be able to improvise. I believe it's and I apologize if I have the wrong branch on this, but the Marine Corps motto of improvise, adapt, and overcome. And you need to be flexible. If you go into it and say, this is the one thing I'm going to do, if this doesn't work, then I'm done and screw everyone else, you're not going to win. I mean, you might luck out, but odds are you're not. And sometimes you need to realize that you might need help and that it's okay to ask for it. Prior to my incident, I never really heard about a peer support team. But since then, I have heard a lot about them. The bigger agency to my north, they have a great team, and my agency tried to use them as a template. And after my incident, to give a little bit of background with my incident, it was my agency's first ever officer-involved shooting, and we'd been an incorporated agency for over 50 years at that point. And it was our first ever officer being shot. So this was a lot of new firsts for my city and my agency that they had never had to face. The agencies around us, they usually get in 1 or 2 a year, and so it wasn't new to them, but we've had this protective bubble around us for over 50 years, and I really messed that up one night. So so they began trying to form a peer support team. It really had a lot of interest in the beginning, but as guys figured out how much work it was going to take and a little bit of that, well, probably not going to happen again mentality setting in, it lost traction. And here we are over 3 years later. We've had 2 more officer involved shootings. One was fatal for the suspect, and the other one I'll actually touch on here in just a little bit. But we don't have a peer support team still 3 years later. And really, this is not it's admin's fault. It's not just admin's problem. It's not just their responsibility. It's the entire agency. It's everyone has to have a buy-in. And if you don't get it, it's not going to work. And I can see the next critical incident happening and them going, well, where's the peer support team? Well, someone dropped the ball and all of us didn't push to pick that ball back up. If you let the ball drop and you don't pick it up, or you don't push for someone to pick it up, it's like most things in our profession, it's just going to go by the wayside and never get fixed. It's kind of like, I like using the seatbelt as an analogy. It's kind of like putting your seatbelt on after you roll your car. Hey, what's the point in it? Most of us, I think, would like to put on our seatbelts before you roll the car. So with going through all of this, some of the best cops that I know, the strongest ones, the ones that seem to have everything together, they're physically strong, they appear to be mentally strong, the happy-go-lucky cops, your typical cop's cop, those are the guys that I have now noticed have some of the worst PTSD and mental health issues over incidents that were never resolved. Many of the issues that I've seen, they're cumulative. You can't point to one incident and say this is what caused it. You might have that one triggering event, but I guarantee it's built up over years of just shitty call after shitty call, combined with our typical politics in our business, and the guys are just hitting their breaking point. And then I'm starting to see a change in this, but a lot of these issues are still being addressed with the old approach of shut up and deal with it. And but then, like I just touched on it, one by one, agencies are starting to take a proactive approach. They are developing programs, peer support programs, counseling, retreats, team building, all those kinds of things. And it's slow, but they're, sorry if this just messed up. We still here? Okay. Sorry, I had an incoming call. um, it's slow, but it's coming about. Um, and by no means am I suggesting that everyone needs to go. Geez, sorry again. Hopefully, it's not something important. um, that everyone needs to sit down with a psych and sing "Kumbaya" and do the touchy feely approach. I am definitely not that guy. But we really do need to look out for our brothers and sisters. And more important than watching out for other people, we need to watch out for ourselves. Because we cannot help anyone if we're not good ourselves. As cops, we are wonderful at giving advice. I find myself giving my opinion to people all the time. However, I've discovered that we are absolutely horrible at listening to our own advice. We can solve the world's problems, but rarely can we solve our own. And so really addressing yourself and making sure that you are on a solid foundation is actually the most important thing. So addressing this topic is never an easy one, usually an uphill battle, and especially difficult if you throw a little blue falcon or two into the mix. Makes things a bit harder, and it's probably the hardest battle that any of us are going to fight. Even and those that remember the patrol days or are currently on the patrol days, but harder than the fight with the 4'11", 83-pound chick gacked out of her mind on meth. To this day, best physical fight of my life. But there's light in the tunnel. There's been obviously a national push for first responder mental health. Obviously, that's kind of going a little bit by the wayside right now with the current issues, but it's still there. The topic is getting out there, and the public's taking notice. And because the public's taking notice, we have to do our part. We have to really be willing to accept the help that's out there, and not just push it aside and be the macho cops that dismiss everything. We've been basically taught our entire careers, and some of us our entire lives, the stereotype to be quiet and be strong, and you don't need to share. You don't need to share your feelings. We'll take on the 6'4", 260-pound pissed off parolee, but will you take on the fight of your mental health? That to me is a harder fight. Will you fight for your mental health? Will you fight for your partner's mental health? So, that's a huge question that I encourage everyone to ask themselves sooner than later. But to kind of continue on, I'm assuming most of us believe in the rule of three, where the stuff hits the fan and it comes in threes. And I am a very strong believer in that one. Since my Motel 6 incident, I really hope I've gotten my three out of the way. My second one was the kid trying to commit suicide by cop in our parking lot. Also could have been pursuit with shooting at the end where I was running up and by the time I got to the lead car, all the shooting was done. And so maybe my stuff comes in 4s, but I'm going to try and keep it at 3. The most recent incident, and this is actually the incident that I get the most emotional out of, was in December of 2018. We had there was a wanted felon and a stolen vehicle, a little bit of a theme going on here. But this guy decided to run from the Big Brother agency to our north, and they're a little bit more restrictive on their pursuit policy than we are. And he made the poor decision of coming down towards my town, and I found him, and the chase was on. And we will chase you as long as we have fuel in the car. Ultimately, throughout the pursuit, the suspect ended up turning around and ramming my partner head on, and then took off running into a creek bed. We were crossing under a bridge, and he turned around and shot my partner. My partner, my best friend, he is a badass. He fought through being shot, took the guy down, and held him there until I caught up, because he's significantly faster than me. This is about the time that in my presentation I hold up a picture of my canine partner, Chance. Hence why he's much, much faster than me. But my canine and I now had something in common. We had both been shot. He came out of it fine. He got a little ear piercing out of it. I kind of equate it to shooting the mirror off a moving truck and not hitting the truck. He's now retired at home, mad at me every day that I leave to go to work. But he got retired because of my promotion and not because of his injury. He was back to work basically the very next week, once the stitches set and the wound had healed up. Like I said, this incident had and still has a far greater emotional effect on me than my incident in Motel 6. I got to, for mine, I was able to train for it. I was able to physically and mentally prepare, and I was good to go. And doing all my research, I was not ready for my partner, Jeebus, the life of a dope cop. I was not ready for my partner to get shot, whether it was my human partner or my animal partner. My animal partner that I saw probably 3 times as much as my actual family. That had a huge, the survivor's guilt type approach had a significantly larger effect on me than my own incident. And I saw it with me on my partner, on my canine partner, and then I saw it with my best human friend when I got shot. We had been through so much crap, nothing had ever happened when we were together. And then as soon as we broke up the team and went to different shifts, all of a sudden everything went to hell in a handbasket. So as a result of all these critical incidents, and now about 15 years in law enforcement, my agency has not changed, but they are willing to change. They're open to the idea, and that is probably the most important step when dealing with an agency, is to get that initial buy-in from your administration for them to actually say, yes, this is a potential problem and something we need to get in front of. Some of the issues in this job that we deal with, they're never going to change. It's the nature of the job. No one calls us when they're having a good day. We're still going to see horrible things. We're still going to have to put on a strong face at scene. and we're still going to have to work ridiculous hours. None of that's going to change. But there are a ton of resources out there to help change the stigma of mental health, to talk to someone, whether they're in law enforcement or not. Take that extra day off when you feel yourself just getting burned out. Don't kill yourself like we were always trained to do. Do something to separate yourself from the life. What I found that helped me survive, and really it was survival. It was the survival of my career. What really helped me survive all this mentally was a lot of self-reflection, figuring out what I could change and figuring out what I couldn't change, and what mattered, what didn't matter. And finally, it was asking for help when I would reach a roadblock. And you don't need to accept that every bit of criticism is correct, but you do need to listen to it and take the approach of, what if it's correct? Because if you dismiss it, regardless of the source, one of your worst enemies could be giving you the best advice, and you wouldn't know it if you dismiss everything. If you take that approach of, I am perfectly fine, there's nothing wrong, everyone else is wrong, you're not going to win. And whether you like to hear it or not, you need to be ready and willing to at least hear the person out, hear what they have to say, and then evaluate it from there. So I'm going to stop rambling on, but I was kind of asked to have a question ready for the group. And my question that I wish I had asked myself before all this, and that I would encourage everyone to ask themselves, is, are you ready to first do the self-reflection that's going to be needed, whether it's a critical incident, relationship issues, or just a Tuesday? Are you ready for self-reflection? And are you willing to listen, not agree with, not implement, but at least listen to an opinion about you that you don't like or you don't agree with? If you are ready for that, great, you're a step ahead. If you're not ready for that, get to work and get ready. So thank you for listening to me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tyler. I really appreciated that question. Does anyone from the network have any questions for Tyler? And you can unmute yourself, or you can put it into the chat. Christian did say thank you, thank you, thank you, and that was awesome.
I do have something. Hey, Tyler, thank you for a phenomenal story, and thank goodness you're still here to talk about it. And you hit home with me a little bit when you said self-reflect, look in the mirror, and that's an issue that I went through. I was able to accept who I am, but also accept outside criticism, even though I didn't like it, but I learned from it. So thank you for mentioning that, and God bless you. Great job.
Well, thank you very much. I think my presentation comes off a little bit better in person, but it's my first Zoom presentation. But yeah, self-reflection was the biggest thing, and I fortunately just stumbled into it. It wasn't any specific advice that it was given to me. I just figured that was one of the best ways that I could approach it. And I think I saw the question pop up that asking if I got to adopt my partner. And I did, after some negotiations with the city. Settled on a price that actually my association ended up paying for me. And now my partner begrudgingly sits at home in the lap of luxury while I still go to work. And he's angry with me every day that he sees me leave.
Tyler, I actually have a question regarding your question to all of us. How do you prepare yourself to hear an opinion that you don't want to hear about yourself?
So, I mean, that's a difficult one for me, at least, because like I said, I stumbled into it, the self-reflection side, and then it was, I guess it would be just more of an acceptance, being willing to accept that you're going to hear something you don't like. And you can apply it to mental health. You can apply it to the current political issues. And I found that if you go into it with the mentality of dismissal, or that you're listening to argue instead of listening to hear, you're not going to make it. And it's just accepting the fact that other people are going to have different opinions. And you just need to, in my opinion, just tell yourself it's okay for people to disagree. But the nice thing about our country is we can disagree, and it's all right. It's not the end of the world to disagree. But the world will stop spinning if we stop listening. And so that's the biggest thing, is just pounding it through your head that it's okay to disagree. It's okay to have a differing opinion. You're gonna hear things that you don't like, and if you let that work you up, then you're not gonna succeed.
Nice, I like that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think
Does
that's
anyone else from the network have a question? Nils, you do.
and that's great advice. Thank you. Yeah, and Jeff, we'll give you plenty of practice. I got stuff to say to you. So, Tyler, you had mentioned the shooting with the kid, and that the administration was sort of mad that you didn't have a shooting with the kid. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So, sorry, 1 second, guys. Sorry about that. We had a 2-pound load car just get stopped with a whole 2 pounds of meth. So that's what they were calling me about. So yeah, so the incident where I did not shoot the kid was, if you could have presented, and this actually might be a little bit for Joy and Milo Range Systems, if you could have presented a more perfect example of suicide by cop by a mentally disturbed person, I don't think Hollywood could have written this one better. Basically, we're in our sergeant's office, which is the first floor room. Our building's pretty small, but it has a big glass door that looks out onto our back parking lot where all of our patrol vehicles are. And I see this kid, and I say kid, he was, I think, 17-ish, comes walking by the glass door, and then out towards our patrol vehicles that are parked. And I asked the group, it was right at shift change, and I'm like, who the heck's this? They all kind of look out, and they're like, no one knows. And the kid had picked up a can of tire shine, and probably thinking it was spray painting, but goes to a big Connex box that has our badge and a big sticker on it, and paints a big circle with a cross over it. And then so now we're really wondering what the heck's going on. And probably about five or six of us go out to confront him, and he sits down in front of the Connex box facing us, and he reaches into his, he's basically telling us to shoot him and to kill him. And he pulls out his hand from his sweatshirt pocket and has his hand inside a McDonald's bag. And he has something in his hand. Can't quite tell what it is. And I look at the situation, I look at the kid, and in all honesty, I roll the dice. And I said to myself, I don't think this kid has a gun. I think he's trying to make us kill him. And I'm gonna take the chance. I'm gonna roll the dice and see if I come out of this one all right. And if my guess is right. And so I take the kid's attention. I step out from cover, and while other officers are maneuvering with lethal cover, and so I know if he does have a gun, he does shoot me, he's not going to make it out of there. But I get within taser distance and deploy my taser on the kid, and we come up and get him in custody and everything. And it turns out he had a pistol-shaped cologne bottle. And so we get everything done. We figure out who he is. We had no contacts with the kid. We had no idea. We found his car about a block away and searched that, found out who he was, end up speaking to his mother, who's pretty highly regarded educator at a college several hours away from us. And turned out the kid had been sent to live with his aunt and uncle because of his mental health issues. And he was diagnosed with, it was bipolar 1 or 2. And basically he was riding the bipolar roller coaster, and had decided that he was going to make the police kill him. And so we got him the mental health treatment. We went the criminal route because in California, that's pretty much the only way you can force someone into the mental health side. And probably 6 or 9 months after the incident, he wrote me a letter thanking me for not shooting him, and kind of explaining his actions and apologizing for putting us in that situation. But yeah, that's where, prior to that letter and my actions, which were heavily critiqued, but without my opinion or my input or any of my thought process into what I did and why I did it, contributed to some of my administration's opinion that I had a John Wayne complex, and that I was basically just going to run into a hail of gunfire and not think about it. Whereas in my opinion, it was quite the opposite, that I evaluated the situation. I decided, yes, I would be justified in shooting this person. However, this is my gut feeling on the situation, and I'm going to trust my gut. And trusting my gut worked out. And I didn't get hurt. The kid ended up with a couple bumps and bruises, but to the best of my knowledge, he's alive today. And I am totally fine with taking that chance and not killing that kid.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Tyler, can you tell me what the chat says? I don't understand what that's supposed to mean.
I only saw a little bit of it, but I believe it was Joy commenting on the probably how relative it is to her systems at Milo of the suicide by officer type scenarios.
Got it. Got it. Awesome. Does anyone else from the network have any other questions for Tyler? If there are no questions, if you have questions, you can always email them to me and I can get them to Tyler. I think his email address is actually on the email that was sent out, so you can also email them to him. With that, we will be meeting next month. I can't remember the day. Let me pull it up. Hopefully my phone will stay powered up, but it'll be August 6th. So we will meet August 6th, and Detective Andrew Shu with the Albuquerque Police Department Homicide and Criminalistics Unit is going to speak. So with that, again, thank you, Tyler. We appreciate it, and we will see you guys all next month.